There's really a crisis of self-worth happening in today's society. There are a lot of people demanding that others recognize their self-worth and how they identify. A lot of people demanding that they be identified as certain pronouns, as certain genders. It's all really an attempt to combat their own deep-seated feelings of worthlessness. And they're demanding the external world validate their worth rather than knowing it from within, trusting that worth from within. A lot of parents today are equally confused about how to boost their child's sense of self-worth, find themselves torn between, not wanting to raise children with self-esteem issues, or on the flip side, raising narcissists who think they're better than everyone else. And research shows that children with a healthy self-esteem have learned through experience that they can overcome obstacles and disappointment. They've had the opportunity to fail and have discovered that failing doesn't prevent them from being loved. Those are the children who grow up into the adults who have a sense of self-worth, even though they know they're worthy of love, even if they fail, because their parents have taught them that. And sometimes our Heavenly Father's love, that is the same unconditional love, even if we fail, it's there, gets a little bit skewed because we've had a different experience in the world, and we've let that experience of other people and their reaction to our failures influence how we think God views us when we fail. But it's important to keep in mind that we're always worthy of God's love, even when we fail. So why does any of this matter, and why are we talking about self-worth today? Because people everywhere are committing spiritual suicide through the denial of self-worth. And we're talking about us with a capital S here, of course. In volume 34, number 43, beloved Brahma-Vishnu Shiva says, "There is one way thou canst be rid of me, O soul. It is to reject myself as thyself, and therefore to enter into the spirals of hell, where fallen angels deny that God, and proclaim thine own unworthiness to be that God. Swiftly thou shalt run into outer darkness in this consciousness. Thy free will has decreed it. None may rescue thee. To deny self-worth, even if thou be a hardened sinner, is to deny me. He that denieth me has already self-denied himself and placed himself out of my reach. Free will is the law of all octaves. Therefore, the individual who does so affirm does actually affirm this in defiance of me, in rebellion and anger against me. Affirming the not-self as a lesser God, that one does truly sever the tie to me. There is no greater self-denial that leads to annihilation than the affirmation of the absence of self-worth. There is no greater self-denial that leads to annihilation than the affirmation of the absence of self-worth. Is not the self I have given thee in the beginning worth that self that is God? Yes. I have given you that self that is the seat of identity, and it is myself mirrored in you. For you made in the image and likeness of the Son of God that I am, which image I did send forth from the point of the I am that I am. I have created the self. Whatever portion of that self does remain in you, you must accept. Whatever it is, whatever its degradation, wherever it has gone, it is all you have of that self that is the original gift. You must go after it to save it, to recreate it, to purify it, and accept the lowliest state of that self until you should rise to the full manifestation of thy God-free being. The alcoholic says, I'm worthless, therefore I drink. The smoker says, I'm worthless, therefore I allow the demons of nicotine into my brain and temple. The one who surfeits himself in sugar and sweets does say the same. I am worthless. I do not deserve to be. Therefore, I shall enter into the destruction of my temple and my soul. Understand that as you move through life, the weight you sometimes feel in the body as you bear some portion of planetary karma is the weight of souls who have chosen the spiritual suicide of self-denial and who are in the process of dying. This dying takes long, long cycles, and therefore death is a dominant vibration on the planet Earth. Understand that this is the predicament of souls about to be lost, concerning which the Blessed Virgin has deep sorrow and tears that flow without ceasing. So in terms of practical terms, what is worthlessness? What is this feeling of worthlessness that we need to guard against and save others from as best we can? Well, worthlessness is a sense of insignificance in oneself. It's strongly linked to hopelessness and self-blame. If someone feels worthless, they often feel useless or beyond help. They may feel they have nothing to offer the world. This can make them feel that everything is wrong. Everything they do is wrong. There's nothing good in their life. It can be easy to focus on the negative aspects of their life rather than the positive ones. There are several factors that can contribute to this feeling of worthlessness. It can be sparked by an event like a relationship breakdown or dissolution, the loss of a loved one, losing a job, or by an ongoing situation like bullying, abuse, or financial pressures. A person who is constantly criticized when young can also form a negative core belief that they're worthless. Ultimately, people who feel worthless have negative self-talk and negative stories about themselves. They beat themselves up for small things and blame themselves for things that most people wouldn't or shouldn't. Often people diagnosed with depression report these feelings, as well as children who are neglected or abused, and then tend to carry that sense of worthlessness into adulthood. But this feeling of worthlessness is really sinister, as we already heard, but in addition to it leading to this spiritual death that we're talking about, it can also lead to thoughts of suicide and death in the physical, and then spiritual as a result, of course. A recent study found that feelings of worthlessness were significantly associated with lifetime suicide attempts in adults who reported major depression and had also experienced trauma. The study concluded that among symptoms of depression, worthlessness had the strongest association with lifetime suicide attempts. The longer someone experiences feelings of worthlessness, the more difficult it can become for them to overcome these feelings without some help. And these feelings can also develop into a prolonged state of a negative mood, can also affect your physical health. In fact, there was a study that evaluated the relationship between mortality and worthlessness in men 65 and older, and found that worthlessness, out of all other symptoms of depression, was the only independent predictor of non-suicidal mortality in about 2,000 people studied. So in other words, 5 years after the study, almost twice as many of the men who reported feelings of worthlessness had died from physical symptoms. So worthlessness could present in a lot of different ways. Somebody might experience sort of a heavy or dull pain in the body, negative thoughts about themselves, tearfulness or despondency, social anxiety, loss of purpose, diminished interest in life, or thoughts of suicide as mentioned. They may also withdraw from relationships, abuse drugs or alcohol, have diminished emotional expression, continually verbalize negative thoughts and say things like, oh, I always do this wrong, or I'm so, I'm such a mess up, or something like that. They can become lethargic. They can also neglect self-care, showering, eating, washing their clothes, things like that. So what's really important here is to note that there may be some places and spaces in each and every one of us, even now, where we are in the path, where we're still acting as though we're worthless sometimes. And this stems from our original separation from Father, Mother, God, and that ancient scenario that led to our separation. And then it can reverberate in our consciousness and world for many lifetimes until we finally are able to correct that and get back to the oneness. And as we strive to correct that original step we took away from grace and perfection, it can lead to these feelings of worthlessness in these different places. Some of us can be really unkind to ourselves and our thoughts and actions, whether we're perfectionists or, it's just something that we tend to self-flagellate. So even if we don't recognize that we're doing it, we may be telling ourselves stories or behaving in ways that really don't honor the worthiness that we have as divine beings. And so wherever we catch that, it's good to make sure we take note of it and put it in the violet flame, because whenever we do that, we're severing our tie with our divinity each time we do it. There are some other reasons that people can struggle with worthlessness. It's just good to know as you're seeing this in the world. Childhood trauma like neglect and abuse can lead to this. Seeing negative events as your fault all the time, past criticisms where somebody's been criticized a lot by their parents or someone else can make them think that they lack value. There can also be an issue with acute or chronic stress and people having a difficult time handling that kind of stress. So in a moment, we're going to get back to hearing from the masters on what to do if you're experiencing these feelings of worthlessness and how to correct that from a spiritual standpoint. In the meantime, just to put a bow on this part, some therapists have ideas about what you can do in your day-to-day life as well to make sure that you're doing things to combat this sense of worthlessness. So speak kindly to yourself, find someone trustworthy to talk to, pay attention when that worthlessness strikes, start noticing when those feelings emerge, what's happening when they occur, what kind of thoughts might be contributing to the feelings so you can correct those at the source. Keeping a gratitude journal is a great way of doing it, doing things for other people. Sometimes imagining you're helping a friend, they say. So if you're, how would you advise a friend dealing with this situation, or how would you speak to them if they were saying these things out loud to you about themselves? Making a list of your good points, your good traits, and writing those down, always looking to remember the happy times and turn those negatives into positives. And then just on a really basic level, getting outside, being in nature, staying active, getting enough sleep, and eating well. So a couple more tips for people when they're feeling unworthy and you're trying to help them in the external, in addition, obviously, prayer. Don't allow them to apologize to you for no reason. If somebody says, I'm sorry, and they shouldn't have, say, no need to apologize. Make sure you're complimenting them honestly. Remind them that they don't have to earn your love. Be patient with them, provide a listening ear, and know that it isn't you and it isn't them, it's their past. So finally, to bring it full circle, because we brought up the parenting piece earlier, for any parents who are trying to strike that healthy balance of instilling self-worth in their children, they say be careful about showering your children with indiscriminate praise. Instead, be more honest in your appraisals. Don't shame kids or put them down, but give them feedback that's commensurate with their effort. Tell your kid that you like their off-key singing, but don't tell them it's the most beautiful thing you ever heard, for example. When praising your kids, encourage their efforts rather than celebrating their achievements or abilities or smart, so they know that it's the effort that you're rewarding, and let them experience those hardships so that they can see that they can fail and still be okay. And then when kids face adversity and get through it, they're going to learn that they're loved unconditionally and that failure is not a sign of ineptitude, but it's an opportunity for them to learn, grow, and become themselves and come to believe in themselves. So while these are really great practical tips to address these feelings of worthlessness in ourselves and our children, beloved Brahma Vishnu Shiva implore us to go beyond that and call for spiritual help from above. And just to repeat that really powerful part that we heard earlier, there is one way thou canst be rid of me, O soul. It is to reject myself as thyself, and therefore to enter into the spirals of hell, where fallen angels deny that God and proclaim thine own unworthiness to be that God. Swiftly thou shalt run into outer darkness in this consciousness. Thy free will has decreed it. None may rescue thee. Darker and darker and blacker is the abyss, but in the moment of the call, of thy sending of a ray of light and hope and prayer and imploring, my angel shall attend thee. The equation, beloved, is this. By the time thou hast allowed thyself to tumble in the abyss, thou art already in the domain of evil spirits plotting thy descent. Thus, what strength, what memory, what love, what perception of that point of light high, high above the abyss, that point of light that does say, I am here. I await thy call. Call to me. Call to me as thy call does echo even in the canyons of Hades. Call to me and I will answer. I have the capacity to reach you anywhere, but I cannot reach you if you will not make the call and desire as the desiring of all of the fire of thy being unfurled and rewound again as a tight coil, as all of thyself does enter thy call. Here is the prayer of the penitent heart. Oh my God, help me. So this is from the same dictation, and I would invite you now to center in your hearts for a moment and give this together as a meditation, a silent prayer from the heart. And I'll go ahead and read it, but just go ahead and let these words, I would invite you to, if you want to let these words become a prayer from your heart. Oh my God, help me, deliver me. I am in trouble. I am in the trouble of my own making and choosing, and the folly of my pride and rebellion has gone before me to dash all of the beauty and hope of my life. Oh my God, I surrender to thy law and will. No longer shall I challenge thy universe, thy kingdom, thy God government of hierarchies of angels who have never fallen from grace. Yes, my God, I see all around me the fruits of evil. I want none of it. I have descended to the bottom of the abyss, and I am through with all of it, and all of the cackling and the howling and the hooting of these depraved ones. I wish to be made whole, and I am willing to walk every step of the way up the abyss. If it takes 1,000 years to climb out of the pit of oblivion, I now take the first step, and I am coming home. I am coming to thee, O God. And if perchance thou shouldst send to me thy mighty angel, I shall rejoice. But I shall know that step by step I will climb. I will accept the conditions of the path of initiation according to my karma. I will not ask to be made an exception to thy law, O my God. I will fulfill all things, harvest my own wrong sowings, sow again good sowings in their place, reap fruit, distribute the fruit of my tree of life, that all might eat of it and know I am being made holy day by day. Thou hast given to me, O my God, the path unto transformation. I am transformed. I am transfiguring, and being transfigured by thee day by day, I will climb the ropes. I will come to thee, O my God. Wilt thou receive me to thyself once again? And this prayer, beloved, this is thy prayer, and God does answer. God's answer to the soul's call for deliverance is this. Yea, I shall receive thee. I shall receive thee in good time, according to the cycles of my law and thy fulfillment thereof. Thus I will give you a path, and if you will endure until the end of thy human creation and thy human karma, yes, I shall receive thee again. And in the interim, in the twilight zone, there I have sent my son. Receive him. If in all humility to the deepest core of thy being thou shalt bend the knee and confess this Christ as the Lord, I shall receive thee. Wert thou a fallen angel, an arch deceiver, or a former enemy of Christ, if thou shalt embrace my Son whom I have sent, I shall give thee to drink that thou shalt not thirst again. This is my response to each and every soul who desires true salvation. Know that I am, and that I have outlined the way, the truth, and the life through my Son, Jesus Christ, the Christ who is Jesus. Therefore, take these teachings restored by his messengers and mine. Take the path and sip it. It is the strong meat of the word. Sip it daily and feel the glow of a holy teaching, suffusing the heart, expanding, increasing the law of being. Yes, to those who have strayed from the hierarchies of angels or descended from the first estate of their Christhood, I offer the open door. The conditions must be met. The prayer of the penitent heart and the call must be given. If this be not forthcoming and an individual make the free will decision to slink into the blackness, declaring the self unworthy, I say to that one, to so declare the self as unworthy is to take my name in vain. For I am worthy. I am thy worthiness unto the Lord. I am worthy. There is a sinister force out of death and hell that is conveyed electromagnetically through all those who serve darkness. That consciousness is the steady vibration of the denial of selfhood. This, beloved, you must know as a most pernicious force of evil that does bring about the demise of many. Bind the consciousness of the denial of self-worth that says, I am not worthy. I am is the name of God. To say this is to say God is not worthy. God in me is not worthy. I am worthless. When you are worthless and so say it, beloved, you have denied all God within you. And unless you shall recite the prayer of the penitent heart that I have given you in that point of the non-exercise of free will through an insidious and distorted pride, beloved, you cannot be reached. I pray then, and I send the call to you who dwell in this octave to understand that this is the point of the sinister message of the false hierarchies of fallen ones that you must go after for the binding of the entire planetary momentum of this sounding of a sound of God denial that does pass like radio waves through all. Though they cannot hear or sense it. By this method and this key, I give you the option in Christ the Son to save souls and to invoke mighty angels for the binding of forces that keep so many in the state of consciousness. The bombardment comes from every quarter and sector of life, from every source of degradation, through drugs of pleasure and pastime, defiling the body, through all manner of impure substance. Respond then to the call to save others, but not without putting on the whole armor of God, as the call to Archangel Michael, as the call for virtue and strengthening of virtue in every organ of the body temple. Let the sound of virtue and many strains thereof be the strength of the purity of thy heart. In the presence of these forces, you shall stand and still stand, and you shall not be left alone. But you shall be taken by Archangel Michael and legions of light to assist in waging this war against the denial of myself and my creation. This is the war being waged, the war that you must wage against those who deny myself and creation, mesmerizing that creation to embrace that self-denial. These fallen ones think, therefore, that they can escape the karma of the murder of souls, for they have convinced so many souls to commit suicide, and so convinced themselves that they are not accountable for the suicide of souls. Therefore, thou shalt not be left alone in waging this war, but thou shalt do battle with this momentum upon earth and joined by Archangel Michael and his legions. They shall assist you in putting on that armor and wielding the sword, and you shall go out with them and come in with them, for this is dangerous work. Therefore, when you offer these prayers of challenge unto the momentum of the denial of God and of that spiritual suicide, do so in the protection of the circle of your sanctuaries and gather in at least twos and threes to make these calls. For beloved, this vibration, this wavelength is the best kept secret of Lucifer, of Satan, and of the sinister force. I have come this day, surrounded by ring upon ring of angels of light, to personally deliver this message to you and this key. Understand that every other derangement of mind and schism of psyche and all of the problems that are dealt with one by one can be traced back to that moment when the individual did deny the worth of God and the worth of true self, which is God within himself. Understand that every other derangement of mind and schism of the psyche and all of the problems that are dealt with one by one can be traced back to that moment when the individual did deny the worth of God and the worth of the true self, which is God within himself. The fallen ones have convinced the individual that the lower self has nothing to do with the great God self, that it is a sinner beyond sin, beyond forgiveness, beyond repentance. Nothing and no one is beyond hope, beloved. But the one who desires to be saved must ask to be saved. Do you understand how many get beyond the point of desiring or asking and therefore are beyond the pale of the reach of those of the higher octaves who may descend no lower than the etheric plane? Do you understand this, beloved? The argument arises in the minds of the people. Why cannot God save that one? I tell you, I have already saved that one by placing myself within him as the divine spark, as the soul that is the image and likeness of myself. If by free will I gave, the individual will deny all of this and allow that light to be consumed by darkness, then only the mediator can save. Thus, the deep desiring of Jesus this day is to prepare you as quickly as the law will allow to enter into that bonding to himself. His coming is, beloved, in the desire that you too may be mediators between himself and those in the deepest levels of despair. Drugs alone can destroy the mind and cause immediate physical suicide by those who no longer have the mind that is a chalice for the true mind of God. This has happened to many, beloved. Drugs themselves are the most deadly manifestation that comes out from the 12th planet and many sources of the blackness of darkness forever in the universe. Do not then enter into that fallacy again, that I do not need you to save these souls. For I tell you this day that I do need you. Seek then the salvation of your soul and its safety, that you lose it not by venturing into the depths of levels of vibrations that can overtake you suddenly, as if you had been doused by chemical weapons, by smoke, by deadly gases, and all at once you are no longer functioning. I am your God. I have come to speak to you. I have descended not through an ascended master or an archangel or a cosmic being. I have come to speak to you as my sons and daughters, that you might know how much I have loved thee and how much I am truly a part of you. For you are my issue and my essence and my seed. I send forth my life stream. It does become your life stream. I am the light flowing over your crystal cord. I am the light that feeds the unfed flame. I am the river of life. I am thy allness. I am thyself. I am worthy to be thy God. Thou art worthy to be my beloved son. Rise then to the dimensions of your holy Christ self and choose to live forevermore. Won't you join me today in seeing where you might be able to unearth any of these feelings of worthlessness that are severing your connection to divinity in those places and spaces. Let's also take a moment to look where we can help cut others loose from their feelings of worthlessness so they can better connect with their divinity. I know it can be frustrating to watch people that are demanding certain things of us in terms of how we view them, the way that they want to be perceived, the pronouns, etc., all of those things, and it can lead to irritation, but really it should lead to love. It should lead to us feeling the pain of their sense of worthlessness and wanting to cut them free from it. And asking beloved Brahma Vishnu Shiva to help us to cut this entire planet free from the spiritual suicide of self-denial, for the saving of those who are in the process of dying, for the saving of souls about to be lost. Thank you so much for this teaching, beloved Brahma Vishnu Shiva. We call upon you now and to beloved Archangel Michael to cut us loose from any fragments or vibrations of worthlessness or unworthiness. And we ask to be healed by Archangel Raphael and Mother Mary. Come forward and heal all of those places and fill them with light. And that God reality, please cleanse our 4 lower bodies now that we might go forward attuned with the I am that I am within us and embrace God and God within us as worthy. And we ask for this to be done according to God's holy will. It is done. Amen.